Good evening, Shabbat Shalom. It's so wonderful to be with you tonight. What a beautiful week we had. Weather was so nice and good feelings in the air. Anticipated being with Mariah and her family as Mariah becomes a Bat Mitzvah. Mariah, you have to understand that you're just like part of the inner family, and we're also excited for you and for your family. So tomorrow morning, as Mariah becomes a Bat Mitzvah, tonight we have participation by Mariah. We're also doing something tonight that we call Kabbalat Shabbat, or musical Kabbalat Shabbat, which means that we're spending extra time with the Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat. There are 6 of them to correspond with the 6 days of creation, and Shabbat is the pinnacle of creation, if you will, the time when God slowed down and just appreciated creation. And that's our task too, slow down and appreciate creation and appreciate the music and appreciate the community, appreciate all the gifts that we have in our lives. So we're going to immerse ourselves in the Psalms tonight, in the themes of the Psalms and in the music of the Psalms. We invite you to just sort of relax. The service is a little bit different than it usually is. We think it's worth it to just experience Kabbalat Shabbat in a really full and intentional way. So we're going to begin with a prayer to set our intentions. If you have a book, you are welcome to join with me in reading. We set our intention of appreciating what we have in this world. I begin with a prayer. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense those qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us and to bring that vision to life. It's now my privilege, my honor to invite Mariah and her family to light Shabbat candles on page 2.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
So let's wish one another Shabbat Shalom. You can do that in a chat, or you can do that with people around you. Our first prayer song is Shalom Aleichem. It's on page 24. I just want to say a word about angels. This is the song or the prayer that welcomes in the extra angels that are, well, I don't know about extra angels, but special Shabbat angels that are with us. And the text is that we welcome them in and we invite them to be with us in peace. We invite them to bless us with peace, and then we have to let them go. So I'm going to ask you to imagine who or what are the angels in your lives. If you understand angels as messengers of God, if you understand angels as sources of protection, sources of strength, sources of compassion, gentleness, joy, just think about what are those angels, what are those messengers of God as we welcome in the special angels of Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem.
You need to unmute.
We turn now to Psalms 95 and 96. They're on page, well, the first one, 95, is on page 12. So this is the first of the 6 Psalms that we do for Kabbalat Shabbat. We will be doing Lechune Ranana, the first couple of lines, and then turning our attention to Asher Lo Hayam, which is where, it's on the end of the second paragraph. Spending a little bit more time on Psalm 95, focusing our attention on 2 different passages of it. Both of them have to do with singing our praises to God as we praise all of God's creation. So Psalm 95, a little bit more time, Lechune Ranana and Asher Lo Hayam, page 12.
Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Adonai. Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Adonai. Naria, Naria, Letzur Yishenu Nekadma Fana Betoda. Naria, Naria, Letzur Yishenu Bismirot Naria Lo. Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Adonai. Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Adonai. Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Adonai. Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Lechune Ranana, Adonai.
Asher lo haya vehu asahu. Asher lo haya vehu asahu. V'yaveshet yadav yatzaru. V'yaveshet yadav yatzaru. Asher lo haya vehu asahu. Asher lo haya vehu asahu. V'yaveshet yadav yatzaru. V'yaveshet yadav yatzaru. Asher lo haya vehu asahu. Asher lo haya vehu asahu. V'yaveshet yadav yatzaru. V'yaveshet yadav yatzaru. Psalm 96, Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash. Sing unto God a new song.
Come, children.
Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai shir chadash. Shiru
Our next psalm is our next psalm is 97, or Zarua. Light is sown for the righteous, radiance for the upright, thinking about the creation of light, part of creation, as we remember that we're just slowing ourselves down to think about all those aspects of creation that we might not be ordinarily focused on in our Kabbalat Shabbat tonight. Psalm 97, or Zarua Latzadik, or light is sown for the righteous. Our next psalms are Psalms 98, 99, and 29, which is, seems like it's not in the right order, but those rabbis had a plan. So I just like to focus a minute on what it means to celebrate at all, and what it means to celebrate creation. I mean, here we live in this tumultuous world, and it's really easy to let ourselves get distracted and preoccupied with problems and potential solutions. And it's really easy to focus on all the things that divide us. And it would be simplistic to say that we have to not do that, because of course we're going to do it. But we do take a little bit of time out on Shabbat to just sort of set that aside, to put it over here, to put that dark stuff away, and to focus on the beauty of creation, how it's enough, how we have what we need. That's why there's traditionally not work on Shabbat. We don't have to get more things. We have what we need. So I'd like to share with you some thoughts. Olivia, I'll need those slides from Parker Palmer, Parker Palmer, one of my favorite people to read, who inspires me a lot. So I'd like to share with you. He's talking about today or yesterday, I think it was yesterday, but just what does it mean to live in this kind of world and to sort of be up against these, what he calls powers of darkness. So this is what he said at the end of this long post. Memo to self. Your best nonviolent tool against the powers of darkness is to live every day in the fullness of life, allowing for local conditions. I mean a life of laughter as well as gravitas, of all that's generous, bright, and beautiful, that dances and sings, as well as what must be sober and measured. Back in the 17th century, the poet George Herbert said, "Living well is the best revenge. Do it long enough and that revenge thing will fade away, and you'll find yourself living in the light of day." And then next slide, and then he shares this prose poem by Diane Ackerman, The Great Affair. The great affair, the love affair with life, is to live as variously as possible, to groom one's curiosity like a high-spirited thoroughbred, climb aboard and gallop over the thick, sun-struck hills every day. Where there is no risk, the emotional terrain is flat and unyielding, and despite all its dimensions, valleys, pinnacles, and detours, life will seem to have none of its magnificent geography, only a length. It began in mystery and it will end in mystery, but what a savage and beautiful country lies in between. These Psalms celebrate that savage and beautiful world in which we live.
זמרו לאדוני בכינור, בכינור וכל זמרה, בחצוצרות בקול שופר, הרים לפני המלך אדוני. זמרו לאדוני בכינור, בכינור וכל זמרה, בחצוצרות
השתחוו לך הקודשו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו לך הקודשו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו והשתחוו להר קודשו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו.
From Psalm 29. May Adonai grant strength to God's people. May Adonai bestow upon God's people well-being. Adonai oz le'amo yitzin, Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yitzin, Adonai yevarech et amo. So we've journeyed through 6 Psalms of Kabbalat Shabbat. We've journeyed through 6 days of the week to get to Shabbat, to get to the beauty that is Shabbat. And we've come to Lecha Dodi, which is a text about Shabbat, but it's also about Jerusalem, and it's about the comforting texts from the words of the prophets that relate to Jerusalem and looking forward and looking towards a better time and looking at things in an optimistic way. So, in honor of taking our time, in honor of thinking about living our best lives, no matter what the circumstances, and in the spirit of optimism, we are going to do the entire Lecha Dodi, all the verses, and we're going to do the whole thing, for the music folks, in major. נקבלה, נקבלה, מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, ומצאים מתוך הפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלייך עיניו. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. התנערי מעבר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפארתך עמי, על יד בן ישי בית הלכים, קרבה אל נפשי גאלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, אורי אורי שיר תברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לא תבושי ולא תקלמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, בך יחסו עניי עמי, ונדרכה יצילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. והיו לשמסה שוסייך, ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, יבסוס חתן על כלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. ימין ושמאל תפרוצי, ואת אדוני תריצי, על יד איש בן פרצי, הן נשמחה הן נגילה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. בואי בשלום עצרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, הנה שבת נקבלה.
Yeah, mute for a second and say Shabbat Shalom or send a message in the chat. If you're not from Pittsburgh, let us know where you are from. If you'd like to send Shabbat Shalom and special Mazel Tov to Mariah and her family, you can do that. I think I'll do that right now.
Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov, Mariah.
Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov.
Started a trend, Mariah.
Mazel
Shabbat
tov.
Shalom,
Look at
Mazel
that.
Tov, Mariah.
It's all flowing in.
Mazel Tov, Mariah and Yael.
There you go. Oh, and
Mazel
Yael and
tov.
Josh.
Josh.
Mazel tov.
And Macy, who's behind the scenes, and Kathy.
Hi,
Bush.
Yael.
Shabbat Shalom. Mariah.
Hey. Hi, Don. Karen.
Shabbat Shalom, Jay.
Shabbat Shalom.
We got to save this, Olivia, so that I can see all their Mazel Tovs.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Mimsy.
We are going to continue with Psalm 92.
Hi, Carol and Richard.
Psalm 92, we call this Psalm for Shabbat, even so it's not one of the Kabbalat Shabbat Psalms. It's just this, every day has a Psalm, and Shabbat has Psalm 92. We'll be singing Mizmor Shir at the top of that Psalm.
Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Tov le'odot Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Tov le'odot Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat. Mizmor Shir Hayom HaShabbat.
Because this is a Kabbalat Shabbat, not a full evening service. If you missed the tefillah, let's tune in next week. It'll be right there where you expect it to be, and Baruch, etc. Right now, though, we're going to turn to Misha Berach for healing. Think about those members in our community, our family, our friends who are in need of healing. The prayer itself is on page 253. This evening, we hold in our hearts Millard Balloon, Alex Botkin, Olivia Burton, Georgia Davidson, Rabbi Lucy Dinner, David Dornberg, Jacob Eisenfeld, Alice Flokos, Barb Hepner, Naum Kaplan, Lee Kramer, Miranda Larson, Judith Levison, Karen Carolyn McDowell, Robert Marcus, Kristen Wood Meyer, Millie Morey, Lev Podorovsky, Ruth Rubenstein, Pat Shore, Arnie Silverman, Jackie Student, Joan Weiss, and Razelbot Chaya. If you have other names, I'd like to add them to the list. We'll add them even as we think of all those throughout the world who suffer, names we don't know, people who are struggling with anxiety and addiction and loneliness, isolation. We think also of Rod Schweigel, Steve Woods, and Sam Spitz. Judith Polanco. If you are watching us on YouTube, we can't see the names that you're putting in, but I want to say those out loud. There's some evidence that just saying a prayer for people, even if they don't even know it, is healing. We sing together Misha Berach on page 253.
Avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
So friends, last week on Shabbat, a great teacher, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, died. He was 72 years old. He died of cancer. He knew he was dying. He was a wonderful, amazing, brilliant teacher. In fact, he is widely regarded as a rabbinic giant of keen insight and who possessed a unique ability to appeal to a wide audience. He's also known as one of the most inclusive Orthodox rabbis of our time. I read his Torah commentaries regularly, just about every week, and have quoted him often. As a result of his generous spirit and his unflagging energy, even while he was sick, even while he knew he was dying, Rabbi Sachs prepared a year's worth of new Torah commentaries focused on leadership. And these Torah commentaries will allow his wisdom to accompany us throughout 5781, even as he is no longer with us in this life. So ever since last Shabbat, my intention was to write this week's Devar Torah, my Devar Torah, based on Rabbi Sachs' work as a kind of tribute to him. And as it turns out, his essay for Chai Sarah, this week's Torah portion, could not be more perfect. As if he knew that this essay would be read during his Shiva. Chai Sarah, the life of Sarah, begins with news of Sarah's death, interestingly. Much of what happens afterwards is a direct result of her death. We can understand it, if I may, as her afterlife. Rabbi Sachs notes that despite what God had promised Abraham and Sarah, that is, enough offspring to make up a great nation. God said, rise, walk in the land throughout its length and breadth, for I will give it to you. God said that 7 times to Abraham. And until now, Abraham doesn't have any land. And also until now, Abraham doesn't have any children. So how can he become a great nation? Well, he has Ishmael. We know isn't, and he has Ishmael and he has Isaac. I should say it's not that he didn't have children, sorry. He doesn't have any grandchildren. He has 1 child, 1 unmarried child, no grandchildren, and Ishmael's not going to be part of this line. So here we are. Abraham is an old man. He has no land, not even a place to bury his beloved Sarah. And he has that 1 child who has no children of his own. The reality is stark and unsettling. With no descendants and no land, how would it be possible? How is it possible for the covenant between God and Abraham to be fulfilled? That will be a great nation, we'll have this land. So far, nothing. And so Abraham sets out in this week's portion to change all of that. He immediately engages in a prolonged negotiation with the local Hittite landowner. He ultimately purchases what has become known as the Cave of Machpelah, upon which to bury Sarah. That is still, or where a place where people think is the Cave of Machpelah. You can sometimes see in Hebron, depends on the current political situation. And so as soon as Sarah is buried, Abraham determines that it's time to find a wife for Isaac. He tasks a servant with finding the right woman for his son from the right geographical area, from his own hometown, so to speak. God promises, teaches Rabbi Sachs, but we have to act. God promises, but we have to act. Rabbi Sachs continues, God promised Abraham the land, but he had to buy the field first. God promised Abraham many descendants, but Abraham had to ensure that his son was married and to a woman who would share the life of the covenant, so that Abraham would have, as we say today, Jewish grandchildren. As we will hear from Mariah tomorrow, the servant indeed finds Rebekah for Isaac, and the covenant with land and descendants can be fulfilled. Later, immediately following finding this wife that we'll hear about tomorrow, Abraham, remember he's very old now, he marries again, and some of you may not know this, he marries again and he fathers 8 more children. And these children and their progeny presumably will fulfill the promise that Abraham will be the father of many nations. Now, I want to just remind you that this set of Divrei Torah from Rabbi Sachs will be his last. And it's on leadership. And it is, he must be, even if he wasn't aware of it at the beginning, he must be looking for disciples, right? He must be looking for people who will study his work and teach his work and make his work continue on. So surely as we learn from him and we teach his lessons and we practice the Torah that he taught us, he will, in no small way, become immortal. With that idea in mind, listen to the last paragraph of Rabbi Sachs' lesson. He says, perhaps, though, the most important part of this parsha, this portion, is that large promises, a land, countless children, large promises become real through small beginnings. Leaders begin with an envisioned future, but they also know that there is a long journey between here and there. We can only reach it one act at a time, one day at a time. There are no miraculous shortcuts, and if there were, they wouldn't help. The use of a shortcut would culminate in an achievement like Jonah's gourd, you might remember from the Jonah story, which grew overnight, then died overnight. Abraham acquired only a single field and had just one son who would continue the covenant. Yet he did not complain, and he died serene and satisfied. because he had begun, because he had left future generations something on which to build. All great change is the work of more than one generation, and none of us will live to see the full fruit of our endeavors. He wrote that however long ago, and it was read the week of his Shiva. None of us will live to see the full fruit of our endeavors. Leaders, concludes Rabbi Sachs, see the destination, begin the journey, and leave behind them those who will continue it. That is enough to endow a life with immortality. Rabbi Sachs' immortality will be assured through his teachings when we continue to study them and to share their messages. Sarah's immortality is achieved through students like Mariah, to whom we pass on the rich and beautiful teachings of Torah, and who, like Mariah, will make them their own and then teach us. I look forward to that. It is a perfect chain, a circle with no beginning and no end, just like Torah itself and just like life itself. Shabbat Shalom.
Continuing with a text that you can find in your Siddur on page 53, or you can just listen to the words, "Where might I go to find you, God?"
Sorry, my cursor was in the wrong place. I apologize for that. I was trying to get it over to the right screen. We turn now to Kaddish. It's on page 294. As our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked. This week was Kristallnacht. Remember the beginning of the Holocaust. Those of every race and every nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. We think of our loved ones whom death has recently taken from us. Nancy Berkowitz, Sylvia Furman, Noah Hershkowitz, Marsha Lucente, Kenneth Phillips, Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Cantor Abe Shir, Dick Simon, Robert Stone, Cantor Moshe Taube, Shirley Tucker. We also remember those who died at this season years past and whose yahrzeit falls on this Shabbat: Ruth Alexander, Annie Busis, Myron D. Henry, it was my father, Edna Bell Kelson, Stuart Klein, Barry Lormer, Elsa Spear, and Sarah Imenu, Sarah, our mother. Other names for Kaddish, if you have them, put them in the chat if you're on the Zoom. Zichronam livracha, may all their memories be for blessing. And if you'd like to unmute, to add your voice. Actually, Jay, was Barbara's yahrzeit this week? Barbara Rogel, Stanley. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
B'alma divrach rutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam umei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitmaman v'yitnasa v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei d'kudisha b'richu le'ela min kol berchata v'sherata Tishvachata v'nechamata, Damiran v'alma v'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Olivia here. I'm going to share some announcements for our week to come. All of these Zoom events can be accessed via the links that are in the Shalomogram, which is our Monday morning email, as well as service links in the Friday morning email. If you're not receiving either of those, please send me an email, tucker@rodafshalom.org, and we will do everything we can to get you on the mailing list. And if you're having other trouble, reach out. We want to talk through it because we want you here. Tomorrow morning, our service continues at 10:30 a.m. with our Bat Mitzvah Mariah Eads. Stick around after both of our services for our virtual oneg here in this Zoom room where we can kibitz. Tomorrow morning before the service at 9:15, Rabbi Bizno is going to be discussing the Parsha Chayei Sarah, which is our Parsha this week we just started talking about. So that's at 9:15. On Monday, the Jewish Book Month Trivia Night is hosted by our librarian, Sam. Jewish Book Month celebrates and promotes Jewish books and authors every year, in the month before Hanukkah, which is coming right up. In honor, we will have an interactive trivia game on Zoom based on Jewish literature. It's really exciting. Monday night. Register ahead in the link from the Shalomogram. You'll find it in this past week's, as well as the one coming up. Hope to see you there Monday night. And following the incredible success of the warm weather clothing drive from the Community Outreach and Social Action Committee, and from, of course, our whole community coming together for warm weather clothing, our holiday toy drive is kicking into gear as well. So the collection day, the big collection day, will be Sunday, December 6th. And the donations will be going to the Church of the Holy Cross Episcopal in Homewood, who we're hoping to start having a closer relationship with in more interfaith work. This week on Tuesday, moving through the week, the second session of our Jewish Pittsburgh History series with Rich Breen continuing the discussion of Jews in the Hill District. The first session was fascinating and is on our YouTube channel, Rodef Shalom Congregation on YouTube, for you to watch the first part, to watch the second one as well. If you missed the first part, that's okay too. The second one will be fascinating, and throughout, these are happening on the third Tuesdays of the month. So the website to check out more is at the bottom there. And our 85th annual Solomon Brie Freehoff book and author series dedicated to the memory of Violet Marcus, our Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi Dr. Walter Jacob, is reviewing the book Hoax by Brian Stelter. And that is on Thursday, this coming Thursday, November 19th at 7:30, both on Zoom and on YouTube, just as the Jewish Pittsburgh History series is. So a lot of things to tune into this week. We hope that there's something for you, and above all, that you find some rest and relaxation on this Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
So it's my privilege to call upon our congregational president, Karen Breen, to share some report from the board.
Great, thank you. Shabbat Shalom all, and a hearty Mazel Tov to the Eads family. I'll be seeing you on the virtual Bima tomorrow, but just wanted to say Mazel Tov tonight. I wanted to give you some news from the board about health and safety. We're watching very carefully the caseload in Allegheny County and Pittsburgh. We're doing all that we can to make sure that everyone stays safe and secure. Related to security, if you had been in the building this past week or so, you would have met our new security guards. We are pleased to have negotiated with a new company to get more coverage for a more affordable price, frankly. But you may have met Darren, our armed guard, or Charles, our unarmed guard, who's also doing health screening and some other things that we need. I wanted to mention also that through our state grant, we're in the process of putting security cameras on the building by Dector Terrace, so that we will in fact have sort of full view of all of the nooks and crannies of our building. And speaking of construction, the work on our sewers, which we were also able to get grants for, will be starting next week. So turning to Hanukkah, which is not that far away, I wanted to let you know that we have some things in the works. I know that we have some plans to have various people host Hanukkah candle lighting and some other ideas in the works. So please stay tuned for that. We're looking at ways in general to make sure that we connect to all of you. So Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Karen. I'd like to express my gratitude to Dawn and Molly and Olivia for just being a pleasure. Just in general, a pleasure. And thank you, May family, for your harmonies and melodies and beautiful shining faces. Mariah, we turn to you now for Kiddush and Motzi.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei pari hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu mitzvotav v'rata b'anu, v'shabbat kodesh b'ahava u'ratzon, hinkilanu zikaron l'ma'aseh reishit, ki hu mel tehila v'mikra kodesh, ze'echel yitziat Mitzrayim.
Kidashta mikol hamim v'shabbat kodecha v'ahava u'ratzon inchaltanu.
Baruch Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. I am.
And
What you got under that cover over there?
uncovered.
Baruch Adonai Elohim melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom. You have some of that for us?
I would have.
Wish one another Shabbat Shalom and a Mazel Tov again, Mariah. I'll see you tomorrow morning for your Bat Mitzvah. And everyone should have a peaceful and a healthy and safe Shabbat. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.